Hello, my little weirdos. And no, I don't have a tail. I'm looking in the camera and I don't have a tail growing out of my. That's raspy. He's kneading on the cushion. Um, Today I want to have a little discussion or a little information. No, it's not political. um, it's about um, heart issues and no, and the only heart issue that I'm aware of that I have is it's been broken. Um, but I'm talking like heart EKG kind of stuff. Um, One of my twin sons, before they even got to celebrate 6 weeks before their 16th birthday, they lived with their, well, one does still live with their dad across country, and it wound up. My one son ran ahead. Brugada syndrome is what it's called. Bru GADO. Brugada or GA. Brugada syndrome. Brugada was the Italian doctor, scientist, whatever, um, that first discovered it. It was like the very late 19 like 89 or 90, 91, something like that. So for diseases, illnesses, medicine, that's actually relatively new. And so they don't do, I think in America it's one in every 200,000 or something. Um, and one in every 10 hundred. I don't remember, but it's considered one of the five rare heart like syndrome illnesses that are not as common, you know. Um, and what it does is basically it'll cause a cardiac, even a very high fever, depending on how severe yours is. So you're saying, Judy, how do we diagnose that? Well, that's the problem with this damn thing. The only reason we found out that the other twin also had it was because his twin was in ICU and eventually passed. Um, and they wanted to see what was going on, so they thought, well, then they're not identical twins. And they were like, they asked him if they could have permission, the father and him, I mean, because he was almost 16 at the time, if they could do some genetic, I guess it is, more not genealogy, genetic, some testing. They had to run, thread a thing through the femur artery. It wasn't fun. I'm sure he was sedated, but that's how they found out he has it. I don't want to use names. That he has it. Um, and then when they found that's figured out that's what he had, except I think my one that ran ahead had a more severe form of it. But any exertion, any like a high fever, getting overheated, getting like heat stroke, could trigger cardiac arrest, and it does a lot of damage to the heart. Um, so I want to tell you there is no way to diagnose it. Really, the only first of all, it doesn't have a whole lot of symptoms. So, I mean, one of it is like a fainting. If you faint or something, sometimes it might be it. Uh, but that's not an unusual thing, especially in the summertime or for like kids that are active teens. Sometimes they get lightheaded and stuff because they overdo. Um, so that's not much, and the list of um, the list of possible symptoms are all very obtuse. Those are things that could occur at a one time every now once or now maybe a couple years later it happened, that's not something that's an ongoing thing that most people would consider. Oh, that happened 4 years ago. It's like, um you know what I'm saying? uh and so it's sneaky, it's stealthy, it's a sneaky bitch. And I wrote it down so I don't get it incorrect. Okay, if you ever have, and I've had them myself. If you've ever had had or have an EKG and was said, well, there was one anomaly, but it only showed once, so it's probably an anomaly and not anything else. Please pursue it to be sure, especially if you're a male, if you're under 50, and if you have any Asian DNA markings. However, now the stats last time I read it were for, this was before my child. Most of the time it doesn't show up. It's usually males. Usually around early to mid 20s until early 40s is when it'll show itself. And what I mean by show itself is you'll have a cardiac arrest. There are no symptoms. It's coming. Often, it's when you're resting or sleeping, like a sudden infant death, like SIDS. You hear it a lot. Oh, they just went to sleep and then they never woke up, but they were healthy. They were in their 30s, or and I'm hearing about women like that too. And I really wonder if some of those might be Brugada, and not as much research done. The other thing is it says, like I said, male, usually between early to mid 20s. He wasn't even 16 yet, and he wasn't resting or sleeping. He was running track to get into track, which he would have gotten into. We were told that he absolutely made the time. The other thing is, often they see, usually up until my kid, from what I've read, I haven't read anything in about 6 months now, but it's usually they have Asian DNA. As far as we can tell, my twins, do not have Asian DNA. They may have Native American, Sioux, DNA, but they don't have any Asian that we're aware of. So that goes against the grain. He was super active. That goes against what the normal stats were. He was not even 16, almost 6 weeks from. Sorry, that gets me. From turning 16. None of those are what the stats said. So even if there were symptoms, that wouldn't have been paired up right away with it, because some of those are ruled out. They would have ruled it out. Oh, well, he doesn't have any Asian DNA. Oh, well, So if you haven't, even if you're not in those that criteria, I'm sorry. Gonna wind up having black eyes by the time I'm done here. So if you see, oh, well, there's an anomaly, because a lot of times, the time that it takes to do an EKG, it might not do a little blip. It might not do it for several. That's the thing. It's a crapshoot if they're even gonna see it if it'll even do anything, on the EKG. So better be safe than sorry, especially since my boy's case might have broken this shit wide open, only because the only other case I read of before him was an 8-year-old boy, and he did live. He had a heart attack, and it was a very mild form of it. But my kid broke just about every freaking statistic criteria that they had at the time. So, Yeah. Special to the end, wasn't he? So I really, really don't want any more people dying from this. Even if none of those markers are present, if you don't see the marker, you don't have any of those other things, if you're not male, under 50, but if you have an anomaly, even if you're female, on an EKG, just mention Brugada syndrome because it is a rare thing, so a lot of doctors are not up on it. Um, One marker on an EKG at any time is all that's seen before an event. So it doesn't let you know. In fact, the twin that ran ahead in junior high, middle school, he played football. You know, so I mean they go through. I mean I'm sure they're not like professional sports physicals, but their physicals nonetheless. They're more than the typical school physical, only because um, you're playing a sport. They don't want kids getting hurt or dying on the fields. And that's where my kid dropped on the high school field, half a country away, while I was packing to move here to this apartment from the other apartment. Totally helpless, can't do a damn thing. And then 6 days later, my sister got the call to come tell me. I think Brugada needs a lot more research. I think it's more prevalent. I don't know of anything else. When they say somebody died, it was, you know, cardiac, but they don't know why. I'm sure they look. The coroner looks for other issues. And if there are no other issues, a lot of those might be. I'm not saying they are, but they might be Brugada, or maybe something related to Brugada that they don't know about. It's a different form of it or something. But I really, 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 if anybody has an anomaly, they say, oh, your EKG was fine, there was just an anomaly, ask. And if there is, ask about Brugada, ask them what they can do. He might have to read up on it. But things are changing. I just really need you guys to take that kind of shit seriously. An anomaly, I used to brush them off too. They all did. And when I found out that pretty much really the only definitive diagnosis of it, not a symptom, a diagnosis, is an occasional anomaly on an EKG, I'm like, in this day and age, how can that be? That you don't have a fucking clue to even see if anything's wrong. You don't have symptoms that you could put together that happen on a continuous basis or anything. So, that's also why it's very important when you see your doctors, if something weird happened, even if it was just once, or it happened once and then like 8 months later it happened again, but that was weird, mention them. Because those kind of things that you think aren't important because it's not bad or it's not constant, those might be early signs for something. Those might be early signs of something we haven't even discovered is around yet. Plus, I hope you understand that with all the permafrost melting because of the climate changing and the warming, the I'm sure you've heard, iceberg. There was one iceberg that's completely gone now. I forget the name of it, escapes me right now. But there are viruses and things that were frozen that hit Earth or whatever, but they were frozen eventually in that permafrost. As that shit melts, it really does release them. Um, you say, oh, well, those aren't by America. Well, you've heard of air. I mean, shit travels, okay? So, who the hell knows? Maybe shit's gotten out that people haven't even realized yet, 10 years ago. Um, but yeah, Brugada is a scary little bitch because of that. There's like no definitive symptoms, really, that you wouldn't mistake for an everyday thing. Like I said, feeling lightheaded every now and then, or especially as a young person, because you're doing a lot. And if you're in the heat of summer, or you live in a hot place like New Mexico, Arizona, I mean, yeah, you can get lightheaded. I mean, it happened to me when I was in my late 20s, 30s. I wasn't drinking enough because I lived 32 years out there, and hadn't gotten into the habit of drinking all the time. You see, I'm drinking constantly, and that's been a habit since then for all these decades. Probably one reason why I have skin that people say, "Oh, you don't look 61." Probably one of the reasons because I've kept myself hydrated with like water, not like juice or alcohol or something. Um, so you don't know what's even showing up these days that they don't even know about. But I'm just saying, I think it's scary that it doesn't have anything really to diagnose it except an EKG, and it may or may not show up on it that day. As a mom, that's scary as fuck. But I have another one that has it. And I really don't want anybody else going through that. Especially for something that we don't even fucking know much about. Because, like I said, the criteria, the stats that they had, obviously my kid blew all of them out the water, really. The only other case, like I said, that was less than in their early 20s was the 8-year-old. So, I'll write the word if you want, and you can look it up if you want any research anymore. But it's really important, guys, because, like I said, he played middle school football. He was shoveling snow in like the Midwest winters with his twin. I mean, growing up before they were in their teens, they were in Arizona, hot as hell, running around. He was a very athletic person, and the Earth Twin is more of the studious person, not the one always getting out. I mean, he'd go biking with his twin and stuff, but he'd prefer to be, you know, information. My other one, the spirit twin is, was very athletic, very go 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 go. ADHD. Gee, I wonder where he got it from. um, so yeah, uh, I I don't want any more people. I mean, there will be, but I want to make people more aware of this. Um, I can't imagine how my other twin is twin son is living knowing. I mean, it's like any kid that has a fatal condition or something, living with that day to day. Anyway, he and his dad did get AEDs in every school. Got the bill passed this year in their state, and it's a red state. So, and he had to go in front of the state Senate twice, I think. I think it was the Congress once, and this House, and then the Senate. Yeah, twice, and talked about living with it himself. and their dad talked about dealing with it after our other one went down. So, both my boys are heroes. By the way, he saved 5 people in his running ahead. He gave 5 people life with his donations. So, Brugada syndrome, she's a bitch. Please, please be aware. This is not a joke. It's not a unserious condition. It's very serious, in fact. So, yeah. Peace out, guys.